Do you remember the devastating floods in Nigeria, which displaced millions of people and killed hundreds more? So, what caused this devastating flood and many others? What is the root problem? To fully comprehend, we need to understand the context in which Warri was founded. Let's go back in time. Back in 1893, Warri was chosen as the British colonial administrative headquarters for the Western Niger Delta. The city was founded in a flood-prone mangrove swamp terrain. Areas in Warri were served by roadside open gutters and by natural gravity flow to drain storm runoff to natural drainage sinks. In 1897, the British defeated the Kingdom of Benin, which led to local mercantile traders relocate to Warri, boosting its populations in this swampland terrain. In the 1970s, natural gas and petroleum deposits were discovered in Warri. This localized economic boom led to rapid urban growth, which was led by workers and nearby communities seeking to improve their living standards. Upon 1980s, property shielding adaptation measures kept floodwaters out of homes due to a stable climate. This led to government flood control measures and institutions to become dysfunctional. By the 1980s, urban planning and development control had weakened. Rapid urban growth and lack of land in flood-free areas led to illegal structures and emergence of informal settlements in flood-prone swamplands, as well as indiscriminate refuse dumps. From around when natural gas and petroleum was discovered, population growth skyrocketed from 50,000 people in 1960 to 300,000 by 2006. The built-up area also skyrocketed. From 1986 to 2006, built-up area had increased by 66.7%, with over 50% occurring in flood-prone areas. Let's now fast forward back to the Nigerian floods in 2012 and try to identify the underlying causes. The main underlying causes for recurring floods in Warri are geography, climate change, rapid urban growth, poor governance, and deficient planning and infrastructure. Geography. Warri was founded in a mangrove swampland area which lacked suitable soil for hazard-free building and development. As it is, Warri is only 10 meters above sea level. Climate change adds more energy into the system, which leads to what already is intense rainfall. The geographic location of Warri and extreme weather events increases the vulnerability towards flooding, and hence it is up to improve resilience and adaptive capacity to respond to climate change. Rapid urban growth and a lack of planning has led to built-up areas to expand into floodwater storage zones and for informal settlements to develop in natural drainage sinks, impacting on the infrastructure. Nigeria has little regard for rule of law, and it is a highly corrupted country, leading to poor governance and lax implementation of effective development planning regulations. When urban growth skyrocketed, the government was highly unprepared and overestimated the city's capacity, leading to built-up areas to expand into reclaimed land. The last underlying cause is the existing but deficient infrastructure. There is inadequate drainage facilities, rubbish is disposed on drainages, and roads and building infrastructure blocks natural drainage flows. Now, let's go and look at the consequences of all these flood events. Impacts of flood events can be categorized under three dimensions: economic, social, and environmental. Economic impacts range from damage to property to destruction of crops and loss of livestock. Social consequences range from loss of human life to a high disruption of day-to-day activities and deterioration of health conditions due to waterborne diseases. Lastly, environmental impacts range from downstream water quality, loss of habitats and ecosystems, release of pollutants, and loss of wetland functions. The degree of impact on all three dimensions depends greatly on the geographical location and intensity of rainfall. The exposure and sensitivity of the natural and built environment will ultimately determine the vulnerability of the system towards flood events. So, who is involved? Before and after and during the flood events, there are not all stakeholders play the same role. Comparing them in terms of their level of power or influence and their level of interest provides a clear visual of their position within the matter at hand. Nigeria has a three-tier government: local, state, and federal. Government interacts with CSOs, NGOs, and international communities to develop adaptation plans to climate change and relief programs that integrate community participation. Private companies should also interact and assist in program and plan development, as flood events also hinder business development. CSOs and NGOs, together with the international community, develop workshops to integrate community members to formulate community-based policies to increase their adaptive capacity towards the hazards of climate change. Government planners should also interact with the community to ensure good governance and a participatory approach. National relief agencies, such as the State Emergency Management Agency, collaborates with international relief agencies and national CSOs to provide efficient, on-time solutions and humanitarian assistance for those at more risk and exposed to flood events. This occurs in collaboration with community members and government. We begin our search for solutions. Do we apply a superhero formula? What must be done in order to achieve the desired outcome? What course of action must be undertaken? It is recommended that bottom-up and participatory approaches are employed. It is imperative that all identified stakeholders are engaged and empowered throughout the process. Institutional links need to be identified and strengthened to ensure coordination and cooperation amongst various stakeholders. First, we need to conduct a flood risk assessment and management exercise. How do we do this? We analyze the risks and assess them, and then we identify vulnerabilities in order to map out different risk zones in Wari. Why do we do this? We do this so that we have a basis for deciding appropriate and adequate protection measures to the affected communities based on different and various flood scenarios. Next course of action is to apply technology, such as digital terrain models, digital elevation models, and GIS in planning. The third action involves the application of flood area management measures. These could take the form of structural measures, such as the provision of flood control infrastructure, such as bridges and drainages. Or we could also use non-structural measures, such as land use planning, zoning and redevelopment, or relocation, compensation, and provision of incentives. The fourth action is watershed management. This should be done through ensuring appropriate environmental management practices are employed. It is also important to monitor land use and land conversion activities such as deforestation, agricultural expansion, and urbanization in Wari. Action number 5 involves assisting the Wari community to adapt to climate change impacts that they are already experiencing by increasing their resilience and harnessing available opportunities in the wake of floods. As action number 6, we look at policy and guidelines. There is need to formulate and enforce appropriate town planning laws. There is also a need to shift from current approaches by adopting new concepts in planning. The 7th action is to prepare for emergencies. This should be done through the preparation of emergency response plans, building of institutional community capacity, enhancement of resilience, and provision of adequate emergency relief resources. The 8th and final plan is to monitor, evaluate, review, and where necessary, update the plans, programs, and policies that are being applied. In conclusion, this production was prepared by Cecilia Saux, Celeste Gonzalez, Doreen Rasoon, and Luanda. We wish to acknowledge the listed authors and institutions that provided useful information for this production. Thank you.
Created using Powtoon.